Hi everybody, my name is Kia Kadiri. I am an MTD student at Douglas College, and I had the privilege to participate in one of the study abroad programs, a guided study tour to Rwanda, and it was an honor and privilege to get to go. I was a part of the Rwanda study abroad program, and it was a wonderful 10-day experience where some MTD students and some music therapy students had the chance to go and work with some students in Kigali, and actually the Mahanga district in Rwanda. So we had worked with these students before in the part of the music technology program, and we got to go and meet some of our counterparts on the other side of the world and make music with them in person rather than just through Zoom. So it was something that came out of COVID, where we were working over the internet with musicians, and then we got a chance to travel there and see their school and see how they live and learn about their culture and be a part of the experience in Rwanda. So at one point in our journey, Popo came up to us and said, "You have to go see the cows." And we're like, "Cows? Like what? What are you talking about? Like why would we go on this 2-hour drive to go and see cows?" And he said, "No, they're sacred cows. These cows are only found in Rwanda. They're the royal cows, and you're gonna go to the royal palace." And so we decided, you know what, we're here because everywhere we were, there were cows. Like why are these cows any different? But we made the journey, and sure enough, it was one of the most incredible experiences. So the Inagbu are a sacred cow that was part of the royal family, and when guests would come to visit the king of Rwanda, these cows would be presented. And so when we arrived, these cows with these amazing horns that are like so huge, they just start walking right towards you, and you're like, oh, it's this terrifying thing. But what we later realized is that the whole time we were there, when the youth would do traditional dance, they would do this thing with their arms, and it was representing the cows. And so it's this part of the culture and part of the community, and it's woven into the history of the land. And when we got to go to the royal palace, we actually heard the history of Rwanda from Rwandans, which is very different to what we learn or what we think about when we associate it with the genocide and what horrible things happened there. It had a beautiful culture long before any colonialists arrived, and it's not often shared. So I would say, yeah, the fun fact was that the cows are a pretty amazing thing, and that there's these dances that everybody does that have to do with cows. But the fun fact is that it's actually more of a serious fact, is that it represents something a lot more. But they have this fun way of tying it into just everyday life, right? So yeah, we got to go see the cows, touch the cows, stroke the horns. It was a whole day, and it was a fun fact about Rwanda, right? I received an academic credit for being in a fusion band and for being a part of the study abroad experience in Rwanda. So it's sort of extra credits in two ways, where we get to have some for the experience before we left and extra credit for when we came back. There were so many favorite moments going to study in Rwanda. It really was a life-changing experience. It's hard to sum it up into even just a few statements, but one of the best experiences was the energy of the youth when they play music and part of their culture, part of their community. They dance and they have the most joy that you've ever imagined. And so, but they're very quiet when they're in a school setting. So I was part of a performance, and I'm like, make some noise, and trying to get everybody excited. And Popo, who's the head of the school, said to me, "If you want to see them make noise, then you need to come to church." And I was kind of not what you expect a teacher of a school full of teenagers to say. But I said, well, I guess I need to come to church. And so on our very last day working with the students, I got up and I got on a motorcycle and went to the school from our hotel so I could be a part of church. And I arrived there at 9 in the morning, and there's like almost nobody there. I was like, is anybody coming? And sure enough, like the students started to pile in, and church for them is a 3-hour concert. And they just sing and dance and scream hallelujah like over and over again. It's like the most incredible experience. And so all of the other participants in the group actually joined, and we had people from all different religious backgrounds, and even an atheist who said that if church was like this, then they would be a part of church. So it was really beautiful to see how faith and religion is perceived in a different part of the world, right? And the energy that they had, like the dance, you can't even explain it. It was like mind-blowing experience to watch kids dance and be like, this is how we worship, and just so much joy. It was incredible. And the music was incredible too, like just the best gospel band you've ever heard, with like more people on stage than actually in the audience. And yeah, it was pretty incredible. One of the most challenging parts about traveling to Rwanda is traveling to Rwanda. It is a long journey with many flights, and it's exhausting. And I think getting over the jet lag and just sort of resettling is difficult because you're so excited. So you run in on adrenaline and yet no sleep at the same time. So it's kind of one of those experiences where you just have to push through. And I would say I overcame it by taking space when I needed it, right? And really recognizing that, you know what, I'm exhausted, I can't come to this jam right now, or just getting rest and making sure that you eat and drink water, like simple things. But one of the other challenges that I really ties into that is that in Rwanda, like the air quality is not the same as it is here, right? There's a lot of like dust and heat and smog from different things, so the air quality is not as good. And then also the access to water, like that was my big takeaway, is like we have clean running water here, and that they don't have that in so many places in the world. And including being in Kigali, everywhere we would go, you would see people just making the journey to get water, and that was it's very humbling. But it was also overcoming that and knowing that I can't just go to the tap and drink the water. It was something that you had to just be mindful, right? But luckily we were prepared very well. So I would say, with knowing the expectation for the need for self-care and then being able to take it when we needed, was kind of how we overcame those obstacles. Yeah, so much awareness about what it's like to live in an impoverished nation that has actually rebuilt itself, right? I learned that people have joy and happiness with very little. So the things that make them happy in Rwanda are not necessarily the same things that drive us, even though they have an awareness of the outside world. They all have Instagram, right? They have access and they see what the outside world is like, but they're driven by much more simple things, right? And so joy looks like community and music and dance and tradition, not necessarily striving for this money, because it's like they know that they might never reach that, right? That's not an attainable thing to look for, so they don't strive for it. And people are content with very little. And that was a huge takeaway to bring home, is that you don't need a lot in order to be happy. It's just needing the right thing. So that was something I hold pretty dear to my heart after that experience. I would say to remain flexible. Very important to be able to adapt and to make changes, and to know that you're not always going to come out perfect, right? There's conflicts that you have to be able to resolve. There's different understandings and different ways of communication. And I think it's important to be flexible, both with your colleagues that you're traveling with and with people that you meet, right? Because everybody has we're all taking in the same experience, but we all take it in a different way. So I think it's important to be patient, be flexible, and really keep in mind that this experience is like overwhelming, right? It's so much in such a short amount of time, to just prepare yourself to take it all in and take a deep breath and be patient and kind to yourself, right? That's probably the biggest tip. Global engagement was incredible in the sense that they made us work hard, but it was worth it. So I would say that the layout and the expectations of the work that we had to do to prepare made you like more prepared than you could ever imagine, right? Every box was checked in terms of your travel and your safety precautions and the things that you need to be aware of, and just like the first aid concerns and the health concerns. Like I think everything was was laid out in a manner that made it that just made it really conclusive. Like, we were prepared for any circumstance, and maybe even over prepared in some ways. But yeah, I think it was just good to touch on all the different things that we might not have thought about, like food or social norms, or just little things that you wouldn't necessarily think could be important, were kind of just brought to the forefront, and just food for thought, right? When you're going to a new country, these are some of the things that you might encounter. And I think especially, even though our trip was a short trip, if it's for students that are doing like longer study abroad programs, it's just that you go through different waves of emotions, right? There's homesick, and then there's a different way of adapting, and then there's the culture, and it brings up different questions for yourself. So I know one of the things that was mentioned was to journal, right? Like keep a journal, keep an activity, and sort of monitor your own feelings and experience along the way, because it all happened so fast, and you need to be able to just like look back and sit and reflect. And it took me so long even to just sit with my photos, because I just came back to a very hectic schedule, and then recently, because we're going to do a performance for the school here at Douglas College, just looking at those pictures, it's like, oh wow, like we experienced a lot, right? And I'm so glad we're prepared to take that all in. I think it was really beautiful that we were supported financially for this trip, right? That just made something that might have been impossible for some people to experience. We get to experience that. That's something that I'm grateful for. I think that overall the experience, like I said, was life-changing, right? I have a completely different perspective on these African countries, and yeah, I mean, it just really opens up your eyes to step outside of North America and look from the outside in, and know, like I said, we have so much privilege, and we to keep that kind of in its right place, right? It's not that we need to give away all of our privilege, and I'm certainly happy to come home to my kitchen and my running water and all these things, but just the awareness that what can I do with it is another piece. And so, even from the beginning, me personally, I went as part of, I had an exterior motive with this trip, and that was that I want to see how I can create an international exchange program where students come here and we take students there, because I work with the Sarah McLachlan Music School of Music, and I want to just find ways to connect. I'm a connector. I like to network with people, and it's this idea that I want other people to experience what I've experienced, and I also want youth there to get to come here and experience what life is like. And not only that, like, some of these students are such amazing musicians that they could come and teach people I know here that are professional musicians, and the money they can make in a very small amount of time could support their families for a year. So it's like, how do I do that work? My work here, when you ask me about being a global ambassador, is like, where can I find funding? What can I do to continue this relationship and this partnership? And I know that Hazel is very passionate about embarking on this kind of adventure with me. And just the whole time we had a meeting scheduled with one of the governors, like we're meeting politicians, we're meeting other people, and I've already kind of started assembling a team of people here in British Columbia, parts of Arts BC and the museums, and like I said, Sarah McLachlan, and hopefully with Douglas as well, where we can make something more, right? So I think my experience was like a first stepping stone, and I will definitely be going back to Rwanda, but it's just a stepping stone for all the different ways that we can continue to do this work, whether it's me or the next person or a different country, whatever that looks like. I think that we have an opportunity to use our privilege to do more, and it's kind of what I'm passionate about, right? I want to take my skills and then use them in the best ways. And so if that's through music, then that's through music. If that's as a teacher, if that's as an ambassador, if that's as a mentor, or if that's as a grant writer, whatever that looks like, it's important to take my skills and use them to the best of my ability, and connect other people with what their skills are, bring them together. And so yeah, it was a great opportunity for me to see the next big picture of my life right? What's the next big project? This is a 5-year thing probably. But to inspire other people that they can have that as well, right? I know one of our other students, Sanha, was ready to go back, right? He wants to go live and be at the music school for 6 months. He wants to, he connected with these students. They were looking at him. This was a great takeaway. So Sanha is a young Korean-Canadian student, right? And the kids in Rwanda were going up to him and they're like, "Do you speak Korean?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." And we're like, but Korean movies, they're huge there. So they basically looked at him like he was a movie star. And then here's this quiet student by a Douglas College standard who probably doesn't get that much attention because he's very behind the scenes, very talented producer and keyboardist. And yet there he opened up and he was this other personality, and he was like, he connected with these musicians that they listen to the same type of music. They know the same type of artists, even that people here in Canada don't know, right? And that was just beautiful to witness, right? Here's this young man who's on this adventure and he realizes something else inside of himself. And that is what I love to see happen, that these types of programs can take me on the 48-year-old spectrum who've had many life experiences, and have the same experience with a 21-year-old that is starting his life experiences. That was a beautiful, beautiful thing that this program has enabled me to do. Yes, 100%. I would definitely do it again. I will do it again because I am going back to Rwanda. So I would look forward to doing any more of these types of adventures and trips, and I'll look for different ways that I can use Douglas College to go and see the world. Yeah, 100%. It was an incredible experience. I would definitely recommend it to anybody. I think it helps in all aspects of your life to have these kind of experiences, right? Culturally and just from a personal perspective, and for the growth that you can carry into all different aspects, for sure.